Well, this episode was a stinker because we watched Season 7, Episode 10, The Gum. Hello, Katie.
Hello, Derek.
Did you like this episode?
Not really.
Okay.
Well,
What's up next week? The Gum was written by Tom Gamble and Max Prost.
ugh.
Directed by Andy Ackerman, and it aired on December 14th, 1995. Vulture.com ranked it as the 159th best episode.
Yes.
Screen Crush ranked it as the 138th best episode. IMDb gave it an 8.5 out of 10.
People are dumb.
And it was ranked as the 52nd best episode.
Come on. Was it for Elaine's boobs?
Kind of want to watch it again now.
Mm-hmm. So who are the guest stars? Did you really only rate like half a page?
Yeah. I was not into this episode. Matt McCoy played Lloyd Braun. He was in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, We Got It Made, and Silicon Valley. Mary Jo Keenan played Dina. She was in Nothing to Lose, Nurses, and Thumbtanic.
Sorry, what?
Thumbtanic. From what I gathered from the movie poster, it is a retelling of the movie Titanic by people's thumbs. Like, you know, you draw a happy face on your thumb, you put a little costume on it.
Yeah.
It's Thumbtanic.
I kind of want to watch Thumbtanic.
Eric Christmas played Harwood. You know, Kramer called him, like...
It's not Harwood, it's not Harewood, it's Harwood.
Mm-hmm. He was in Porky's.
Okay.
Harold and Maude, and Mouse Hunt. And then Ruth Cohen played Ruthie Cohen.
Mm-hmm.
She was in VIP, Life Among the Cannibals, and she was an extra in 101 episodes of Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah. And she only spoke in 4, right? I think I remember reading that.
The thing that I read was, this is one of the episodes where she rarely got a line.
Yeah.
Before Max Prost and Tom Gamble were on the writing staff, they had recognized that she was a recurring extra on it. She was also an extra on the Golden Girls.
Oh.
Apparently they wrote this role specifically for her as like an homage to the number of times she'd been an extra. But they still made her audition, and it went very poorly.
Really?
So Jerry Seinfeld had to vouch for her and convince the staff to still let her.
I mean, she has what, 4 or 5 lines?
She had to ride a horse.
I guess she had to ride a horse.
Do you think you could ride a horse like that?
You mean like what? Like
she did.
Did she ride it in a special way, or did she just rode a horse?
Do you think you can ride a horse?
I have ridden a horse.
Oh, okay.
Do you think you could ride a horse?
Yeah, I've ridden a horse.
Okay, this is a weird question.
Why?
I don't know. I had to think back. Was she riding side saddle? Was she doing tricks or something? No, she just walked in on a horse and left.
Yep.
I'm a little afraid of horses, but I could ride a horse.
I'm more afraid of birds.
Well, let's get into this.
So gum is a human invention, apparently, according to Jerry Seinfeld.
Uh-huh.
I don't really think it's a human invention. I think it's they were chewing
tree sap.
Tree sap and stuff.
Does that count as inventing something?
I don't think so.
I wrote down, what is gum? It's not liquid, it's not a solid.
Mm-hmm.
I did like when he said, teachers freak out about gum in school.
Oh, yeah.
And he thinks it's because, you just look like you can't take anything seriously while you're chewing gum. Oh, yeah, they landed a man on the moon? Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
I do think the punishment for chewing gum in school is probably disproportionate for the offense.
What's the punishment?
Isn't it I feel like it was, you were detention for chewing gum.
I have to say something. It's for one person who I don't think listens to this podcast. But in case she does, you have to note that I'm looking up at the ceiling, but I'm pointing at you. And I'm saying, Aju Vikingamu.
Okay.
We had a teacher, I'll explain. We had a Ukrainian school teacher who had a lazy eye. And so my friend was chewing gum in Saturday school, and our teacher like marched up to her and was pointing at her, but was looking up at the ceiling and said, "Throw out your gum." And this is a thing that we imitate 25 years later to each other.
Well, I'm sorry that she's not listening to appreciate that.
She's probably not.
So Kramer's volunteering at the Alex.
Wait.
The stinky old movie house.
Wait. Let's throw it back to last week when I asked you if you remember this episode.
We will see Jerry in glasses, and he will go to Chinatown and buy gum.
And?
I don't remember what I said.
You said something about glasses and gum, so you nailed it.
I did think that, so there is another episode upcoming with Lloyd Braun, and I thought that, I thought both of these storylines were in the same episode because it both centers around mental health, I guess, to like be vague about it and not spoil anything.
Okay. I'll read the synopsis before we go on. Kramer works with Lloyd Braun to renovate a movie theater. Jerry spends too much money on Chinese gum. An old friend thinks George has a mental illness. So, I wrote Lloyd Braun a couple of times in my notes. Not once would my brain let me write it properly. I wrote the L, and then the O, and then I had to go back and add another L and continue.
Yeah.
What a stupid name.
Double L at the start of a name. Who do you think you are?
Ron.
Tell me that's not the most delicious gum you've ever tasted.
This is such a bad episode. There's so much time where they're just sitting around silently chewing gum. And I know it's supposed to be awkward, but it's not funny awkward.
I think I like how they somewhat turned it on its head, and they were like, because like by and large, I think they're blowing how Lloyd feels about everything out of proportion, and it's about
Kramer is,
but and how they act towards Lloyd.
Yeah.
So it's somewhat like flipped on its head how this quote unquote bad thing happened to him, but it's now making everybody else feel awkward because they don't know how to act towards him.
Yeah.
And are acting unnaturally.
I wrote several times, what does Jerry owe Lloyd Braun? Why is he doing any of this? Why did he agree to any part of the glasses, going with Lloyd somewhere to get gum? Like,
well, Kramer's mentoring him now, so.
Oh, then I'm not worried. Right, but like regular Jerry, I feel like if someone other than Gamelin Prost had written this episode, regular Jerry would have said, "Nah, I'm not."
Like, it makes more sense if, well, I guess Jerry and George grew up together, so Jerry would have also known
Dina?
Lloyd.
Lloyd. Yeah, I guess so. But he doesn't seem to have the connection with him that
George does. Yeah.
Like, maybe he was from the neighborhood that George was in, but like, they all went to school together, and so like, Jerry didn't really know him as much. I don't know.
I do agree that I hadn't, like, I think it would have made more sense for like George to be going through all of this and like jumping through hoops, but he just kind of.
Well, but then he wouldn't. Who would have had this storyline about being paranoid and taking pleasure in the misfortune of others? All my friends do that.
Where's Susan?
Yeah, no mention of Susan. So later on, I wrote, why does George care if Dina thinks he's crazy? Is he trying to hit on her?
I think it's written like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, he met her in the park. Like, oh, I'm glad you called me. Like, we're gonna.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, maybe Susan's not in this episode because they actually wrote it at a different time, and it wasn't part of the Susan arc.
Well, I think most of the episodes in season 7, they like shoehorned the Susan
Yeah.
arc into.
Yeah.
So,
And this one, they're like, there's no room whatsoever.
I don't know. Like, you probably could have, with not much rewriting, swapped Jerry and George,
Okay.
and it would have made a lot more sense.
For the Lloyd Braun stuff, sure.
For the Lloyd Braun stuff. And then also Jerry's like, oh yeah, Dina from high school. Oh, like I always had a thing for her.
Uh-huh.
She calls him up. She's like, I'm worried about you because you're crazy.
Sure. Yeah, that would have worked.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to do with his car or anything. Maybe I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, like you could definitely rewrite it to be a more sensible story.
Yeah.
What I have to give credit to Gamble and Prost is that I can picture them like on a whiteboard. Being like, this piece will connect here, and that will reference this, and then this will come around back to the beginning, and we'll do it 4 more times in the same episode. Like they're very much like Arrested Development does it much better, right? Like a million things happen, and then a season later, something pays off.
Right.
But they're trying to do it in 21 minutes.
I also felt like everything was kind of like fast in this episode. There's too many scene changes.
Let's talk about Elaine's button. Listen, you would feel if that much of your shirt was open when you stood up.
I think that we need to suspend our disbeliefs a little bit.
Uh-huh. Man, Lloyd Braun is creepy.
Yeah. So it's been a while since we watched the non-fat yogurt, and yes, this is a different actor playing the same character.
Okay, because I didn't recognize him.
So Lloyd Braun was originally in the non-fat yogurt, working for the mayor's office.
I remember the name. Oh,
Yeah,
now I
and
can
Elaine
picture
was
the
dating.
guy. Now I can picture him.
And that was played by Peter Culligan.
Okay.
Unfortunately, he had moved back to Canada, and so was
Oh.
unavailable to play this role.
Couldn't get on a flight?
I don't know. I guess not. So they cast Matt McCoy to take over this role. But like, and I know this is supposed to be after a nervous breakdown, but I feel like he went from a very put together individual.
Sure.
And
He
is now like a
sort of lobotomized.
12-year-old,
he's got-
ooh, boobies are great kind of guy.
He's got a big, creepy blank stare,
Mm,
and he talks kind of slow, and he's obsessed with the gum. He's giving lobotomy vibes,
mm.
which I don't think is funny.
Yeah. Do people still have nervous breakdowns, or was that just like a catch-all term that...
Yes, I think people still have nervous breakdowns.
But it, like, is it... I feel like that's a very, like...
Now, I guess you might
90s
say
term.
you had a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mental
know.
health crisis?
Yeah, I'm sure there's
Mm.
better terminology. I don't know, but like, I feel like there's a respect for a mental breakdown. It's like, something happened that was terrible, and you had it,
Mm,
and that's in the past now.
right.
Whereas, don't you feel like a mental health crisis kind of gives you a stigma that you carry? I know this is a big, heavy discussion, but like, maybe because there are so many jokes about mental breakdowns, it's like, oh yeah, you just had a little mental breakdown. You're okay now.
Mm. You just gotta build it back up. It's been broken down.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Bring it back. Let's bring it back.
Bring back the term nervous breakdown?
Yeah. Let's have nervous breakdowns.
Having 2 a day here.
We should ask your sister, who is a mental health professional,
Yep.
what she thinks.
I feel like it's a bit of a loaded term and an outdated term
Sure.
and a catch-all term.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm looking at my notes and I got Bubkiss Katie. Bubkiss.
I used to choose the front row seats at a movie theater.
Oh my God. I went to the movies with our daughter.
Mm-hmm.
We went and saw the Taylor Swift
Yeah.
Experience. What was it called?
Okay. I don't know.
And at one point, she was like, so they came out, like I was going to say hotel staff. The movie theater staff came out and they were like, this isn't like a regular movie. Like if you want to get up and like dance and like be like up in your seats or move around, we're all very much for that. We're not going to like, whatever, please do. And so we did. And it was in one of the newer theaters where there's like, you come into the door and there's like a walkway and there's seats that are both like closer to the screen and further away from the screen.
Sure.
And so a lot of the dancing happened on that walkway.
Okay.
But at one point she was like, I want to sit down here in the like front seats. It was impossible to sit in one of those seats and see the entire screen.
Yeah. I don't know why, when my friends and I were old enough to be allowed to go to the movies, like just us, our parents would drop us off. For some reason, we always sat in the very front. And I think because no one in their right mind sits around you, so we kind of felt like
you're
this
isolated.
is all, yeah. And we could talk and be stupid. It didn't really bother anybody.
No.
But when Elaine and Jerry like scooched down in their seats, I could feel the back of a movie theater seat in my head.
But I feel like when we were kids, and probably back then too, yes, you were like, you were not sitting comfortably, but you would at least be able to see the entire screen.
Because they were smaller?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know.
Whereas like nowadays, the front seats are useless.
So at the cafe, Elaine comes in the next day and Jerry calls her Chesty LaRue.
Have you ever noticed that sitting in the front seat of a movie theater, you got to really crane your neck to see the whole movie? Back in my day, sorry, yes, Chesty LaRue. Wasn't that your fake name you used to give to people?
No. Chesty LaRue was my, like, nickname among friends. The others who were Busty St. Clair and Tits McGee.
All of which are from The Simpsons?
Yeah. What is this reference? Because it is from The Simpsons. Chesty LaRue and Busty St. Clair.
I don't know. We'll have to find out next week.
Okay. I don't remember. We watched a Simpsons episode with our kid about infidelity.
Yep.
She had 0 questions. I don't think she was paying attention or picking up on anything.
When she at one point, like, just like when Marge was meeting with Jacques, she just said like, "Uh-oh."
Okay, so she did pick up on it.
Yeah.
When Homer says, "I'm going to the backseat of my car with my wife, and I'm not coming back for 10 minutes."
Don't think she got.
Nope. No. She's like, "Can we watch another episode?" I wrote Bubbles glasses.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, Bubbles glasses. Just using the Lost and Found as your own personal sunglass hut.
Why couldn't George change at the theater into that costume?
Why does Dina care so much?
Why does she? Well, she's concerned. She saw what her father went through. George is a childhood friend. I don't know. Why does she care, and why does George care if she cares?
Why did she not, like, ask, why are you dressed like...
But she saw him with Jerry, right? No, he was with Kramer.
He was
okay. Why wouldn't she say, like, "George, is he okay?" And then Kramer could have said, like, "Yeah, he's putting the costume on to help me."
This is a very explainable situation. You don't need to chase her down the street, and she doesn't need to run away.
Yeah, this episode sucks. And then after Elaine gets sprayed with the hose,
I feel like her shirt could have been wetter.
And then in the end, she comes to the theater, and Jonathan Harwood is wearing her button, and she just says, like, "Oh, that's my button. Did you find it here?" He goes, "Yes. Can I take it off you?" "Sure." Like it's such a weird interaction where it's just like, wouldn't he say, like, "No, I think I'll keep it," or right?
Or he would take it, like, not own up to having stolen it.
Yeah. Well, I guess he didn't really steal it. It was in, I don't know. Is the Lost and Found
taking something that doesn't belong to you out of the Lost and Found was stealing, Katie?
Yes, agreed. But
at the same time,
how
perhaps it's not stealing.
How long does it have to sit there before it doesn't belong to anybody? I know this has been like one day, but I'm not talking in Seinfeld world.
7 years.
Okay. I'm sure there's stuff at our kid's school that's been there 14 years.
Why is Elaine trying to take this button off this guy? Because he's an old man?
For the huge punchline, we gotta get Elaine a boyfriend. Man, I hate Lloyd Braun. I hate this episode. All right, I had one correction from last week. You asked if we still do AIDS walks. There are still AIDS walks.
Oh, cool.
That's it. Next week we have the rye.
Oh, I was going to do something for this.
Okay.
I don't want to ruin the episode.
Are you going to make a marble rye?
Oh, I could do that.
Yes.
So in this episode, Susan comes back, and their parents, George's parents, are invited over to Susan's parents for dinner, and they bring a marble rye, which is not served.
Okay. Well, that's it.
Well, that episode is much better than this episode.
We hope you enjoyed
this episode
of Clue Stalkers.
That was weird.
Shut up.
All right. Believe it or not, this is our podcast. Please subscribe at the end. If you subscribed, we would be happy. Please subscribe to us. Believe it or not, it's our podcast.
Is that a Seinfeld reference?